What's going on, guys? This is Al B, and today we're going to be talking about the brand new VST from Baby Audio called BA-1. Now, this is Baby Audio's first actual VST, and it's coming in the form of a synthesizer. It's supposed to be emulating an analog synthesizer that gives you really like a retro synth pop type of vibe, and depending on what different settings you set, it can give you a little bit of a lo-fi vibe as well. Now, this is going to be based off of a classic Yamaha CS01 synthesizer. Baby Audio won't tell you that. I guess maybe that's part of them just not trying to get sued. But if you know, then you know. And that's what this is based off of. You'll see that this actually sounds pretty good. And I mean, I'm not just saying that because I'm doing this video. This video is not sponsored, right? This is my true opinion of it. It actually sounds pretty good and gives you a lot of the flavor, a lot of the artifacts, and a lot of the vibe that you actually get from an analog synthesizer. And you'll see it pretty quickly here as I step through some of these presets. But without further ado, guys, this is Al B, and let's get into it. Yes, sir. All right, so now that you guys have seen some of the presets, let's actually step through the different features and effects that are here on side of the BA-1 synthesizer. So first of all, you can actually change the color. You have your blue, you have purple, you have orange as well. And then of course you have the default gray. So starting from the left side, you have glissando or gliss, which is actually just going to be the rate at which the notes glide from one to the other. And you can change that all the way down to where you can, it's almost immediate. Or you can take it up to 10 and it's going to be very gradual. So you see there when you take it to a higher setting, you can actually hear the individual steps of the gliding. Then you're going to have two oscillators. So this is a 2-oscillator synthesizer, and you can crossfade between the two oscillators. So if you want to hear more of oscillator 1, then you would take the crossfade up. If you want to hear more of oscillator 2, then you bring that crossfade down. Oscillator 1 and oscillator 2 will have the same first 4 wave patterns. You have your triangle wave, of course. Then you have your saw wave, your square wave, and then you have your pulse wave. After that, oscillator 1 and oscillator 2 become a little bit different. Oscillator 1 is going to give you a PWM wave, or a pulse width modulation wave, that can be modified by using the speed slider here on the left side. Oscillator 2 at the bottom, instead of having a pulse width modulation wave, it has WN, or what stands for white noise modulation. So you can kind of use a crossfade to glide between Oscillator 1 and Oscillator 2 again. And here you can kind of use this to control how much white noise you hear underneath the initial oscillator. So let's set this to a triangle wave and set this into white noise. For both Oscillator 1 and Oscillator 2, you have octave controls, so you can change which octave each individual oscillator play at. And then you also have a pitch slider for each of the oscillators as well. Moving on a little bit to on the FM side, this is a FM modulator, which is basically a sine wave oscillator that modulates Oscillator 1. It's used to give your sound particular overtones and just help add different vibes to the actual sound. So if you listen really closely, you can kind of hear it change the amount of warmth and kind of give it some different tones as you slide the FM slider up and down. Moving on, you have your filter, which should be almost self-explanatory if you're familiar with filters at all. So you have your cutoff, which is going to give you a resonant frequency, and I believe it's a roll off of negative 26 dB, I believe. So you can hear it's a really smooth filter. And of course, you can change your resonance on it as well. So the envelope is going to change almost how deep the modulation is that you already have set. And the key switch is going to basically change how much the filter opens depending on whether you're playing a higher note or whether you're playing a lower note. Sorry, a little bit sharp there, but you can kind of hear how it gets stronger or more open as you go up in octave, or up in the scale. Moving further to the right, you have your envelope, which you can turn on sync, which is going to sync it with the tempo of your DAW. So some of the effects will actually have, a synced effect to them. But of course, you have your typical ADSR envelope: attack, decay, sustain, and release. Then you have a LFO section where you can actually modulate the filter itself, or you can modulate Oscillator 1. And with Oscillator 1, you will be modulating the frequency of Oscillator 1. And with the filter setting, you will be modulating the filter cutoff with the LFO. And you can actually, it's kind of a sneaky setting here. You can actually click sync to, similar to the envelope section, to sync the effect with the actual BPM set in your DAW or in your host. Then you have side chaining, which can be really used to create some great pumping effects. You can do it pre or post signal. Now we move on to the effects section, and of course, Baby Audio is well known for their effects. And what they've done here is each of these individual effects are based off of, again, classic analog type effects that you might find in a low budget studio, let's say. And that's not to say that the sound itself is low budget, but just to say that's kind of what they're trying to emulate here with these effects that you see on the screen. So we have, first of all, we have tone, which is kind of self-explanatory, right? Your dark tone is going to basically either boost or attenuate the lower end of your signal. And then you have bright, which is going to boost or attenuate the higher end of your signal. Then you have drive, and your drive has two different modes, so to speak. One is OD and one is circuit. With the OD drive, that's going to be basically a classic guitar overdrive pedal type of distortion. Or you can have circuit drive, which is going to give you even more of an overdrive effect. Let's go back to overdrive so you can compare that with the circuit, and I'm going to toggle between them. So you can hear it's a little bit more of an exaggerated drive and a little bit stronger than what you get with the OD drive setting. Then you have your delay section. You can control the amount of delay and you can control the length of the delay. And you can turn sync on here as well, which will sync the delay with the BPM in your DAW, based on time division, I should say. So then you have reverb, which is going to be, again, a typical reverb with an amount and a length of the reverb. Then you have chorus. I'm going to turn it back off. And then turn it on. Let me do that again with the reverb, turn all the way down, with the delay, turn all the way down, with the drive, turn all the way down. And let me reset the tones just so you can get a better idea of that chorus effect. First off. Sounds kind of dry without those other effects, right? And there you have it with the chorus on. So you really can see how strong these effects are when I reset them just to try to show you that chorus effect. You can really see how strong these other effects are, and kind of, you want to have them on just a little bit to give it a lot of flavor. Just that quick, you see how much more it opened it up, and I just turned the tone back up, turned the drive up a little bit, turned up the delay a little bit, the amount and the length, and then of course turn the reverb back up, and all of a sudden you have a very strong sound again. So this last one that we're going to talk about is the battery, and what this is supposed to simulate is the original analog synthesizer that BA-1 is modeled after when it would get low on battery because it was a portable synthesizer. When it got low on battery, there will be certain artifacts and certain nuances that would come out when the battery was draining and getting low. So with BA-1, they've simulated that by giving you this actual battery setting so you can recreate some of those artifacts and nuances that were in the original analog synthesizer. All right, let's check it out. It's on 100 now. Let's just play around, and then I'm going to gradually pull it down. So you can really hear some of the cool sounds that you get out of it when you start to pull the battery setting down some. And if you've ever used an electronic type of instrument like that and actually heard the battery drain, then you know that this is what it kind of sounds like. It's struggling to make the sound, starts giving you that kind of drunken, woozy sound. So really, really cool, and I think it's pretty unique to Baby Audio's BA-1. Before we finish out here, guys, the last thing that I really want to show you, well, not the last thing, I've said that a few times, but one thing I really want to show you here is the regen. And basically the regen is going to use an algorithm that's going to give you some unique and kind of random presets. They're not totally random. There is an algorithm that helps you to get a better chance of these actually being good sounds, let's say. Let's check it out. So this is a really good setting, in my opinion. If you don't like the 500 presets that are here, by the way, this does come with 500 presets out of the box. So you should have a lot to choose from to get you started. And if you're new with synthesis, using the regen would be a great way to, say, generate a certain preset and then pick and choose what you want to modify. And that'll give you a really good understanding of how synthesis works and really help you to become more familiar with synthesizing. And I think it's a great, again, just a great way to learn, a great way to play around with synthesis. Another setting that I really like is the speaker setting on the left-hand side here. And what this is supposed to be emulating is, with the original analog synthesizer that this is modeled after, a producer may actually, instead of having the sound routed directly into their mixing console or directly into their, their station, they would actually take a microphone and put it up to the external speaker of the synthesizer. And what it did is kind of just opened up the sound a lot more. So let's see what this sounds like with the speaker setting on and off. All right, guys, that's going to be it for this video. I hope you found it helpful. Please make sure you hit that like and subscribe button to get more content. I'm going to also put a link in the description to where you can get Baby Audio's BA-1. Until next time, this is Al B, and we are out. Yes, sir.